I'm going to preview the Baylor versus West Virginia women's basketball game, which will be played on February 11th at 7 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus. And I apologize for looking down because I cannot memorize all this stuff. And I expect Baylor to be at least receiving votes, if not the first team receiving votes or second team. But if they're ranked, they're ranked. I expect West Virginia to be ranked, by the way. I do. They won both their games this past week, so now I'm going to go over the overall records for those two teams, both conference-wise and overall. West Virginia is 19-4 overall, 9-3 in the Big 12, while Baylor is 25 overall and 10-2 in the Big 12. So this is a huge game, to say the least, for both of these teams. One, if Baylor wins this game, they'll still be at least tied for first place with TCU and Kansas State, which I know Baylor lost to TCU. But you get the whole point. They're right there, and honestly, if West Virginia wins, they move up in the standings while Baylor moves down. So, and this is a prime opportunity for Baylor women's basketball to get another huge win at home, because they did that back with Utah in January. And this is also kind of important for NCAA tournament seeding down the line, too. Because West Virginia is trying to become a top 4 seed. They are trying. While Baylor is obviously, they need this game to even think about being a top 4 seed at this point. Because if they have to practically win every game or most of their games from here on out, including conference tournament, to think about being a 4 seed still. Obviously, if they win with a winning streak the rest of the year, yeah, they should be a top 4 seed potentially, as long as they beat Kansas State at Kansas State and then TCU at home at the very end of the year. Okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but you get the whole picture on why this game is important. And Baylor's coming off of a win against BYU, 83-71. While West Virginia, let's just say they had a practice of a game against Houston. And no offense to Houston, but Houston is banged up. And they are terrible. 5-19 overall. And 1-12 in the Big 12. What's crazy is that one win was against Oklahoma State, who's in the top half of the standings. Yeah. I don't. And they only have like 6 players available. So this is definitely a game in terms of, higher competition when compared to Houston. And it was a blowout win, 79-51 to be exact. So what are some players to keep an eye on for West Virginia? Obviously, leading scorer J.J. Quinterly, number 11, 5'8" guard. That's a senior, 19 points per game, 31 for 100 on threes, 82.1% on free throws on 117 attempts, 3 rebounds per game. And I'll put all the Outlook stuff in the description below, which I just noticed that it says 29.2% on threes, but it's really 31%. But y'all know what I'm saying here is correct on 31 for 100. 3 rebounds per game, 3.2 assists per game, 3.1 turnovers per game, 3.4 steals per game, 2.4 fouls per game. There's Jordan Harrison, number 10, 5'6" guard. That's a junior, 13.3 points per game, 35.7% on threes on 70 attempts, 86.7% on free throws on 90 attempts, 3.3 rebounds per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 3.3 turns per game, 2 steals per game, 2.4 fouls per game. And there's Cindy Shaw, number 5, 5'9" guard. That's a junior, 13.1 points per game, 37.4% on threes on 147 attempts, 88.5% on free throws on 26 attempts, 3.3 rebounds per game, 2 turnovers per game, 2 steals per game, 1.7 fouls per game. And then there's somewhat of a drop-off to Kylie Blackson, number 14, 6'3" forward. That's a senior, 7.5 points per game. So a little big difference. 33.8% on threes on 71 attempts, so she will shoot threes. 85.7% on free throws on 21 attempts, 3 rebounds per game, 1.2 turnovers per game, 0.8 steals per game, 1.7 fouls per game. There's Kai Watson, their number 32. 5'10" guard, that's a senior, 6.6 points per game, 29.7% on threes on 64 attempts, 15 for 25 on free throws, 7.6 rebounds per game, 1.8 turnovers per game, 3.2 steals per game, 1.7 fouls per game. And there's Jordan Thomas, number 23, 6'3", 4. That's a freshman, 6.1 points per game, 57.6% on free throws on 59 attempts, 4.1 rebounds per game, 1.2 turnovers per game, 1.8 fouls per game. And there's Celia Riviere, Riviere, number 37, 6'3", 4. That's a junior, 3.8 points per game, 2 for 8 on threes, 78.9% on free throws on 19 attempts, 2.8 rebounds per game, 0.8 turns per game, 1.3 fouls per game. There's Cindy Woodley, number 2, 5'8" guard. That's a senior, 3.2 points per game, 31.8% on threes on 22 attempts, 16 for 20 on free throws, 0.6 turnovers per game, 1.8 steals per game, 1 foul per game. And I'm only going to mention, like, really 2 more players here, to be honest. And that would be Destiny Agubata, number 4, 5'11" guard. That's a freshman, 3 points per game, 26.7% on threes on 15 attempts, 82.4% on free throws on 17 attempts, 0.9 turnovers per game, 0.8 fouls per game. Tarzan Moore, number 33, 6-foot guard. That's a senior, 2.6 points per game, 60.7% on free throws on 28 attempts, 0.7 turnovers per game, 0.7 fouls per game. And really, everybody else is like 2 points per game or less, unless you really want me to mention Zaya Nougat in terms of stats here. And that's really it. To be honest, number 22, it's 5'7" guard. That's a senior, 1.8 points per game, 12.5% on threes on 8 attempts, 56.3% on free throws on 16 attempts, 1 turnover per game, 1.1 fouls per game. So I'm going to just say this up front. Whatever you did wrong last game, you got to correct for this type of game. And you'll know those particular areas that I'm talking about. You'll know it. And Nikki Khan said it on the radio and in the press conference as well. You'll know what it is. And obviously what you did right last game, you got to bring into this game. And another thing, of course, you got to make adjustments on the fly throughout the game, not just from first quarter, first half, second half, but throughout those quarters. And you don't need to put yourself in too big of a bind. And yeah, I know you have come back some this year when you're down double digits, but don't put yourself in that position and allowing big runs to happen. I'm just telling the truth. I mean, look at that Oregon game. Look at that Indiana game. Look at the TCU game. The Oklahoma State game, that was an outlier. It was close for a while. And for a half, we came back, made it close. But then third quarter, that was just an awful third quarter. And that was the difference in the game. I'm just pointing that out. Though I would say the Oregon game is more of a fluke. First game without Jane Van Guybeek. And Belafonte got hurt in the first 2 minutes of the game, and they didn't even have something that, like a machine, some type of specific machine to check what that injury was at the time. And that's a shame that happened. I mean, that was Oregon at Oregon. But you get the point. And same thing goes for the UCLA game. Yeah, you competed with them after the first 5 minutes. But you don't want to put yourself in that position. And you made it interesting against them. Don't get me wrong. They did. But you can't put yourself into too big of a hole. And yeah, you made it interesting, but you couldn't get over the hump. You need to find a way to get over the hump if you're down that big again, which hopefully you're not. But if you're trailing, you need to try to get over the hump. You need to get over the hump. Now, defensively, you need to limit of course, one thing across the board too, you got to limit your foul trouble while getting them in foul trouble. And I don't care about the officiating in the game. Yes, it can be questionable, I know. But you got to make plays to win. You got to hustle the other team. And you got to find a way to protect home court. This is a prime opportunity to, one, get yourself back ranked if you're not ranked already, as long as you win your other game later on in the week, and help yourself in the conference standings, which is more important. I mean, let's just tell them the truth. You can't be intimidated by West Virginia players too. You just can't. And you gotta find a way to show them who's boss. Figuratively speaking. And of course, you got to stay calm and cool and collected and stay poised. Now, defensively, you got to do a better job on their better players than you did last game against BYU. When you look at those numbers, you'll know why. You could enforce turnovers like you did last game, but don't allow them to shoot as good from last game to this game. And that was a step backwards in terms of defense on the field goal percentage and the three-point percentage. And you don't want to let them live at the free throw line either. You got to rebound the ball. I mean, get some defensive boards. Limit those second chance points. Limit the points in the paint. Three-point shooting. Fast break points. Points out turnovers. I mean, obviously getting some blocks would really help. And getting some steals and force some turnovers and disrupt the rhythm. And make the best players miserable in those type of games. And I expect Nikki Collins' staff to get under the players, tell the players right away, hey, you cannot defend like you did last game. Because if you do, you're going to lose to West Virginia. You've got to improve. It's kind of like the UCF game. Bad, not as good defensively, but improved. But then you took a step back. Now, let's get back on a step forward here. Now, offensively, you need to take care of the ball. That's rule number one. You got to take care of the ball and get some points on turnovers and fast break points. Some points in the paint, whether it's a drive or a dump off or some second chance points. And second chance points as in like right underneath the basket or kick it out for a three. You got to make your free throws count, which that is important, especially in this type of game right here. And you got to take good shots, and hopefully we make more shots from three than we did last game from other players. Besides Aaliyah Mataru and Yaya Felder, they had 5 out of 6 on threes. I mean, 5 threes out of those 6 made attempts last game. So hopefully they do. But Belle Fonroy, I know she broke out one against Cincinnati, big time. But hopefully she brings it to this type of game here. And we do need Aaron Volney to not shoot as bad as she did last game. What am I talking about exactly? She had 8 points, but it was on 16 shots, and she only made 4 of those. And 1 for 1 on threes. She had a good start, but then not great. I mean, just saying. And Daryl LePage Buggs needs to step up in this type of game. Which, if she could bring what she did last game to this one, that would really be helpful. And Jay Walker, I know she didn't score that much. I mean, hopefully if she hits her mid-range shot. But she was a good floor general. I mean, 8 assists to 2 turnovers. And hopefully Sarah Andrews does not get in foul trouble like she did last game and plays better than last one. I mean, 2 points on a 1 for 6 shooting, 0 for 2 on threes, 0 for 2 on free throws. Hopefully she does play better. And we do need Yaya Felder to step up off the bench, and Leah Mataru. And leaving Leah Mataru open is like dancing with the devil. Why would you want to leave her open? She could hit those. I mean, she literally had 17 points in one half one time this year. So, yeah, and of course, Kyle Abraham needs to step up when she does come in, whether it's on defense or offense. And she actually had 5 points last game. Some scoring wouldn't hurt. And her catching passes, and she needs to be better with the fouling. Kind of same thing goes for Aaron Volney, too. I know. She needs to find a way to stay out of foul trouble, because I do think this team is better when Aaron Volney is on the floor. I really do. And if Wise Jennings, and Wyetta Jennings does play, she needs to do her role. Same thing goes for Kayla Nelms. So, This, like I said earlier, big game here in terms of conference standings. Because if Baylor wins, they are still tied for first in the conference, despite losing to TCU barely and then getting blown out by Oklahoma State early on. And some people overreact to that loss to Oklahoma State. Look at them now. And look at this team now. They're playing better. And I literally said at the time, cool the brakes. It's game one in the first time in a long time. It's second conference game. In Aliyah Madaru's first game, too. It's going to take time. I mean, that's just telling the truth. And all this, so. And obviously, the Baylor crowd needs to be there. And got to feed into the crowd and try to take away those West Virginia fans that are there at the game as much as possible while igniting that crowd to get them going into this game here. So, anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. See you guys later on the road to 7 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal. It's 1,000 more, so my money. Those scores like video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithm so more people see it. Sharing the video does help as well, so more people could watch. And if you're watching and subscribe, hit subscribe button for the notification bell as well. And do not be shocked if Baylor does use the press that they have been using the last few games at times. Besides man-to-man, full court, or half court, you get the point. You got to play good at man-to-man defense and adjust to the officiating. I know it can be questionable, but still. Let's go out there, protect home court.